Early in this hockey game, it looked like the Montreal Canadiens were back to their old, not getting enough shots and getting outplayed by the opposition. But as the game progressed, they got better. Despite some defensive issues, they still came away with a point after a 4-3 shootout loss against the Columbus Blue Jackets. As Get Smart would say, missed it by that much. Let's talk some puck. Hey gang, Costa here from PuckTalk Montreal for this September 17th, 2025. And I know for a lot of you, I just dated myself. Doing Don Adams as Maxwell Smart is one of my better impressions. But, it is what it is. Either way, the Montreal Canadiens do come away with a point after a 4-3 shootout loss at the hands of the Columbus Blue Jackets. But there wasn't a lot of bad offensively as far as the Canadiens were concerned. But there was a lot of bad defensively, and we'll point that out as we go through the highlights. And, of course, those highlights presented by Instacustoms. Instacustoms.com is Canada's highest-rated print shop with over 3,000 Google reviews and a 4.9-star rating. They offer direct-to-garment printing on all your favorite clothing, along with coffee and travel mugs, and they even offer embroidery. Habs won a Stanley Cup? You can win, too, on Stanley Street at Instacustoms.com. Now, I want you to take a close look at this particular goal by Zach Werenski. He scores this at 6:58 of the first period. But I want you to look very closely at Noah Dobson and tell me, why is he still backing up? Werenski gets the puck up near the blue line right here, and he's got all day to step in right into the slot and fire a puck and score. And watch Dobson. He follows him, and instead of pressuring Werenski, he completely backs off. What are you thinking? Werenski's bearing down on you as a defenseman. If you're playing man-to-man and you're Dobson, that's your man. Where are you backing up to? If anything, pressure the guy. See what he does. But don't let him walk all the way into the slot unabated. Of course he's going to score. He's Zach Werenski. Anyhow, a goal that pissed me off, along with the fact that the Canadiens were outshot 10-8 in that first period. But not as bad as we would normally see from the Habs. Then the second period rolls around, and at 4:47, a beautiful pass from behind the goal line from Mike Matheson to Oliver Kapanen. He puts it home for his 7th of the season, making it 1-1. Now watch Matheson goes in behind, into the slot. There's Kapanen, rips it home. Here it is again. Puck sent down. There it goes. Here comes Matheson. Whoop. In the net. Beautiful play, and it's 1-1. And before we go any further, let's just say Columbus goaltender Jet Greaves was absolutely, or Graves, whatever you want to call him, was absolutely fantastic for them in this hockey game. And for the Canadiens, Jakub Dobson was solid. Despite the fact he allowed the 3 goals, he was very good in Montreal's net. That being said, let's take a look at the second goal, where, again, Noah Dobson on the ice, this time with Alex Carrier. And ask yourself the question, isn't there supposed to be a defenseman in front of your net? Why the hell are both of them below the goal line? Watch, as you see both Dobson and Carrier go below the goal line, leaving poor old Joshua Roy in front to try to defend, who else but Alan Fantilli. That's a mismatch. That puck's in the back of the net. It's 2-1 Columbus. Again, defensive breakdowns. Why 2 guys behind the net is beyond me. When it comes to defensemen, you should never have more than a defenseman there. And to boot, there was a forward in support. So there's no need to have that extra defenseman back there. There should be one at the net front defending whoever might be there. In this case, Fantilli. Then the Blue Jackets go to the power play. And it's Dmitry Voronkov who scores on a beautiful tip in tight right by the goal. Again, not much that Dobson can do here as the puck comes in hard. Voronkov just puts a stick down, puts it home, and makes it 3-1 for Columbus. And the majority of Habs fans turned the TV off and said, good night, I'm going to bed early. Well, real fans stayed in front of the TV. And what did we do? We watched a beautiful comeback by a team that actually absolutely worked their asses off in the third period. It started with Josh Anderson knocking down a rebound and putting it home. as the shot came in originally from Lane Hudson, who had a goal and an assist in this hockey game. Watch, as just out of eyesight, it bounces off of Graves and goes right to Anderson to make it 3-2. Here it is again. Quick shot by Caufield. Boom, in the net. That makes it 3-2. Then with the goal empty, at 18:41 of the third period, it was Lane Hudson on a shot from the blue line, beating Jet Graves. Shot should have never gotten through, but it is what it is. Here comes Hudson. Graves got a piece, but it goes in behind him to make it 3-3, and we get set for overtime. Overtime solves nothing. We go to a shootout. Johnson and Caufield exchange shootout goals, and then it's up to Kirill Marchenko. And Marchenko barely gets this past Dobson. I feel bad for Dobson because he played this perfectly. Marchenko's shot was just a little bit too hard. Good Lord, as that doesn't work. Hang on. Here we go. Here's the Marchenko goal. Watch this. He comes in slow, right? Gets to about the hash marks and then lets it rip. Dobson is down, paddle down. It manages to just get under it. Watch it again. Painful. Absolutely painful. And that's how the game ended. The Canadiens lose it by a score of 4-3. But at least the losses in regulation are done. They get a point. They almost pulled it off. And we move forward towards Thursday against the Washington Capitals. But before we go to that game, let's analyze this one. And for analysis, we talk cheapesttshirts.ca. Cheapesttshirts.ca has men's, women's, and children's t-shirts, all sizes, hoodies too, with over 1,000 products to choose from. Anything you need for merchandise or the best deals on everyday clothing, cheapesttshirts.ca is your go-to source. Buy today, ship tomorrow, cheapesttshirts.ca. Now, I don't know about you, but for Columbus, this is about the cleanest game I've ever seen played in my life. They really didn't look like at any point in time they deserved a penalty. So congratulations to them. I've never seen that before. But in saying that, okay, the Montreal Canadiens did get a power play, and Columbus was 1 for 2 on the power play. Of course, the Voronkov goal, the tip in front, again, nothing for Dobson to do. But when you look at the Canadiens defensively, and you take a look at the job that Dobson did tonight, I can say without a shadow of a doubt that I was super unimpressed with what he did. In fact, I wondered why both Arbor Xhekaj and James Struble didn't see the ice in the third period all that much. I know the Canadiens were behind. I know they shrank the bench. But punishing guys that played well because you need other guys to step up isn't really the way to go. 2 glaring mistakes by Dobson at 5-on-5 led to 2 goals. One, he backed off completely from Zach Werenski, and Werenski just walked in and ripped one past Dobson. And then there's a goal where he and Carrier were behind the goal line, leaving Fantilli wide open in front to be covered by none other than Joshua Roy. Not that Roy did a bad job, but it's Adam Fantilli. One-on-one, you're not going to win that battle. I don't care how long you've played in the National Hockey League. A forward against a forward, defending in front, Fantilli's going to win that one all day, every day. And I was very disappointed in Noah Dobson tonight. Yes, offensively, he brought it, which is no surprise. But defensively, he was not as good as he normally is. The guy who was great defensively tonight and offensively, Mike Matheson. One of his best games this year, bar none. He was the defensive stalwart for Montreal tonight. Lane Hudson was good too. He didn't make any glaring mistakes on the back end, but Mike Matheson stood out, making all kinds of right plays in his own zone, getting pucks up the ice quickly, and allowing the Montreal Canadiens to transition to offense and get scoring chances. They outshot Columbus 32-23. That's the first time I think the Canadiens have gotten 30 shots this entire season. I'd have to go back and look, maybe on one other occasion. But other than that, when was the Canadiens don't get 30 shots on goal in a game. They did tonight. Still a loss, but a hell of a comeback for this team. They also dominated in the faceoff dot against a team who have somebody by the name of Sean Monahan, who normally is upwards of 55 to 56%. Tonight, he struggled against Nick Suzuki. So, great on the Canadiens for getting possession of the puck more often than not. But again, we talk about this ad nauseum when it comes to this show. What works? Everybody talks about how Marty doesn't like garbage goals. Well, let me tell you something. The goal that was scored by Josh Anderson, that's a garbage goal. It's generated off a rebound. Yes, Graves could have done a better job of holding onto the puck, but it took a funny hop off his chest right to Anderson. He put it down and he popped it in the net. And to boot, you had who? Joshua Roy in front of the net. On the game-tying goal, it was Juraj Slafkovsky at the side of the net. Then when the puck was at the point, he slid out in front to take away Jet Graves' eyes. And on the first goal, great play by Matheson in front of the net. Where was Kapanen? In the middle, where I always say that the Canadiens absolutely need to have somebody. And he puts it home. So, no, we didn't see the power play tonight for the Montreal Canadiens. It was only 2 power plays for the Columbus Blue Jackets, so not much, 50%. What are the Canadiens supposed to do? But at the end of it all, when you look at how the Canadiens played defensively, they did relatively well. They mitigated the amount of shots that Columbus got. They kept most of the shots to the outside with the exception of the egregious goals that were scored against. So they limited how dangerous the Columbus Blue Jackets could be. But brain farts by Noah Dobson pretty much cost this team the game. There's no other way of putting it. And in what I could say is a different twist, Alex Carrier has been on the ice for a lot of goals lately. And that's not good for somebody who was praised for his ability to defend at the end of last season. Now, whether it's because he's playing too many minutes in a game or anything beyond that, I don't know. But he's starting to look like he's regressing as opposed to getting better. And that's not something the Canadiens can afford right now, especially with the likes of Caden Gooley being out of the lineup for a prolonged period of time. So what do you do if you're the Montreal Canadiens? Well, you take a look at the game overall tonight. You come away thinking it was a positive. You work with Dobson about the stupidity, and then you move forward to the game versus Washington. But what are the other things that you have to point out to Montreal? Well, one of the things is, again, Ivan Demidov is not shooting the puck. He had opportunity, never ripped it. And that's going to be a problem if he continues to not shoot the puck. He is one of the biggest weapons on the Montreal Canadiens. We can all agree upon that. But if Demidov is going to have any type of success at the National Hockey League level, and he's supposed to be considered for Rookie of the Year this year, but he's not shooting the puck enough. Yes, he's getting points, but you also have to get a few goals to go along with those points, right? He got an assist tonight on the Kapanen goal because he gave the puck to Matheson, but those secondary assists aren't necessarily because you're driving the play. That's what the Canadiens need from Demidov, to drive the play. That second line can be good. You saw that tonight if he drives the play. He drove the play a little bit, but never shot the puck. He has to do better. It can't be... What did he get tonight, actually? Did he get a shot on goal? Hang on. Let me just take a look. Demidov had 2 shots. That's not good enough. He's got to be better than that. Especially when tonight he had 18 minutes of ice time. That's a lot higher than he gets normally. So you can see that the Canadiens are already leaning on him. And what did I think of the experiment of putting Zach Bolduc up with Slafkovsky and Caufield? I am a huge proponent of chemistry. And while Slafkovsky had a great game on the Kapanen and Demidov line, he helped tremendously. But I also think that leaving Slafkovsky up with Caufield and Suzuki, like they did late in the third period to get that tying goal, and allowing Bolduc to develop alongside Demidov and Kapanen will not only allow the first line to continue to maintain that chemistry that they've had for years, but it'll also allow Bolduc to possibly build some chemistry with his 2 new line mates, and maybe he could be an offensive catalyst as well by getting in front of the net, getting into the bumper, getting shots on goal. That line needs that. So Slafkovsky did a good job of opening up space for them tonight, but I think that long term, you should leave Slafkovsky on the first line and allow Bolduc to play alongside Kapanen and Demidov. Davidson, I think he needs more ice time. There's no point in bringing him up and just playing him 9.25. That kid can bring more to the table. So putting him on the fourth line with Veleno, I mean, at the end of the day, I would rather see him on the third and maybe put Roy on the fourth, whatever the case is. But I think they put Roy along with Evans and Anderson just to vary it a little bit. But I think Davidson should go there. Let Roy develop alongside Evans and Gallagher. Oh, yeah, sorry, not Evans again. Veleno and Gallagher, excuse me. That'd be a better option, especially for Roy, who has struggled at times at the National Hockey League level. But got to give him props. He had a good hockey game tonight. He may not have gotten on the score sheet, but he was visible. He created, whether it was him standing in front of the net, getting a shot on goal or two. I believe he had two tonight, was it? He had one tonight. But, you know, he also had a hit, a couple of giveaways, but he was visible tonight for good reasons. In front of the net on the Anderson goal, all kinds of stuff. So I'd rather see, but overall between Anderson, Roy and Davidson, Davidson has been the more prolific scorer at the American Hockey League level this year. So I'd rather see Davidson get those prime opportunities and leave Roy on the fourth line along with Veleno. They could probably do some damage. I wouldn't be surprised because Veleno and Roy play at pretty much the same speed, whereas Davidson can provide some size to go along with Anderson and Evans. He'd be a banger there and be able to put pucks in tight because he doesn't mind going to those dirty areas that I keep mentioning. But you can't really complain. Overall, the Canadiens offensively did well tonight. Defensively, as I said, they could have been better. Now, what did you see exactly tonight? Did you see a better Montreal Canadiens team? Did you see a Canadiens team that played with more desperation in the second and third period? Which I think is true. What did you see? How did you view Jakub Dobish's play? I thought that the first goal, he may have been able to do a little bit better. But overall, I thought he did relatively well. Right? No bananas tonight. No bad goals. Whereas when you look at Columbus, the only reason they won this hockey game was because of the goaltending of Jet Graves. Because the Canadiens deserve to win this one, despite the defensive misgivings. And that's part of what we keep talking about when it comes to goaltending as well. Defense. Somebody asked me the question the other day about man-to-man and in the comments. And I mentioned that I'm not a proponent of man-to-man defense. It's good situationally where, say, for example, in the defensive zone, you play box plus one, which is 4 zones that are split at the top of the circle. So you've got one zone at the left point, one zone at the right point, left corner and right corner. And then you've got one guy who serves as what you would probably call a rover, who is basically moving around and following the puck, covering the middle of the defensive zone. So the minute the puck ends up near the boards or anything of that nature, then the person in that zone plays man-to-man against the guy who has the puck. And the rover would then become the guy who covers the zone, if you understand what I'm trying to say. I think this man-to-man for all 5 guys in the defensive zone is really confusing for the Montreal Canadiens defense, especially for guys like Dobson, like Carrier, who come to the team from more traditional systems, right? Matheson now, he's getting used to it. Hudson doesn't really apply to him because he's all over the ice anyway. And you look at Struble and Xhekaj, and I think those guys as well struggle a little bit more with the man-to-man, despite the fact that they've been with Montreal for more than a couple of years now. So the man-to-man system may be something the Canadiens may need to visit and maybe modify. I don't mind it so much when you're penalty killing, right? You want to have that man-to-man on the puck carrier, and that's where it should be. Only on the puck carrier. The minute the puck moves, man-to-man comes out of that zone completely and goes to the next zone where the puck is. That's what I'm trying to say here. It's not a complete unit of 5-on-5 or 4-on-4 or whatever it might be. Okay? The only time you play man-to-man defense in the National Hockey League should be in overtime when you're 3-on-3. That's it. Above and beyond that, it should be zone defense with man-to-man only when the puck carrier is engaged. Period. What do you think of that idea, Habs fans? Put it in the comments. You think it makes sense? Zone plus man-to-man on the puck carrier? No better way to put it, right? Let me know what you think. Now, I had somebody who suggested that I do a historical piece on some of the more important moments in Canadiens history that changed the NHL. I'm going to look back at that. And tomorrow I'm going to come up with that historical piece, let's say, to talk about some of the things, including why the power play changed back when Jean Beliveau was with the Canadiens. Most of you know that story, but for younger viewers, you may not know it. So a little bit of a revisionist history on Puck Talk Montreal tomorrow. Again, the Montreal Canadiens lose by a score of 4-3 to the Columbus Blue Jackets in a shootout. Thanks to instacustoms.com and cheapesttshirts.ca for sponsoring. As always, make sure you give us a like. We'll talk tomorrow night.